Thanks for staying tuned to Power Breakfast this Christmas week and general holiday season. Thought we'd talk finances with you for a moment. I don't know how much you've spent so far. December is, today is the 19th, so there's still a little bit of time that you have to get your finances together in case you have not for this festive period. So I'm joined by two experts in studio who are going to help us discuss what holiday spending is all about and how we can better manage our finances. Seated next to me is Dr. Paul Kibicho. He is a finance and business consultant. Welcome to Power Breakfast.
Thank you so much.
And of course, a familiar face, Kilwake Wabuge, who's also a financial consultant. Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so now here's my first question. It's the 19th of December. Is it too late to start getting our finances in order? I mean, people might have made blunders already, for the past couple of weeks now that we're in the holiday season.
I can say fine. It is never too late, number one, to rectify a problem. Number two, you'd expect that maybe quite a number of Kenyans had planned prior to December coming, because in our calendar we had 11 months. January, February, April, up to December. So anybody who seems to be confused at the moment had problems from where to go. So we'd expect everybody to have put his financial position in place, so that during this festive season the family is okay, you're okay, and you're actually leading things as per your budget, not because of what we call the season. Some Kenyans are very funny. They suffer from what we refer to as impulse buying because it is December. And any prudent financial person knows that you're not supposed to buy things in December. The businessmen and women know this is the time for them to make a kill.
Yes. So
if you go and buy the same attire as you are dressed in right now, it will cost you 5 times than in an ordinary situation. So why should you wait for that? Remember, the salary remains the same. Everything remains constant despite the fact that you're in December. So one of the things that you must always remember is to ensure that whatever you had purposed during the month of December goes as per the arrangements that you had made from January. So do not suffer from what we call impulse buying, because it isn't everybody's in that mood of buying new dress, buying a new car, changing your wardrobe. No, that's not the way to go. Otherwise people do bladders, and come January they start crying. You find someone now going to the most expensive shop. Remember, the salary, as I've told you, remains a constant.
Well, let's talk about the salary for a moment, because not only does it remain a constant, but it also comes early.
Yes, comes early.
In December, and yet it's supposed to stretch until February.
Yes.
So what's the plan there?
I think it's looking at how you, in fact, maybe just to jump on what he said, is in terms of looking at it from a control perspective. Because right now the planning bit will be too late. If you didn't plan, then you didn't plan. So right now you're looking at controlling going forward, so that by the end of the festive season, then you're looking at scoring yourself in terms of how much have you retained as opposed to how much have you spent. The salary remains the same. It has come early. I have the mindset that at this point in time, the most critical thing you should be doing is settling financial obligations that are statutory, not only statutory, but are fixed. Let me use that one, are fixed. You're going to pay school fees. So if you're not paying school fees by now, there's a problem. Because if the money came in, the first thing you should have taken out was school fees. If you're paying rent,
school fees,
January school fees, the rent you should have paid by now. In fact, the only thing I always say is that if you're going to the festive season, make sure what you spend is what is left of your normal monthly obligations. Because the next salary is in February, end of January. So you're actually looking at employers will pay you by 15, then you're actually looking at almost 45 days before you get your next paycheck. So
if you're unable to manage that, it could be a long 45 days.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about the culture. I mean, Kenya has become increasingly, I think, materialistic, especially during this time. You go to the shopping malls, there's sales everywhere. Like you're saying, business people looking to make a killing, and we're buying into that. I mean, the Western culture has kind of hit home here, especially during this festive period. So what do you say to people who fall prey to these quick sales? You walk into a store, you weren't planning on getting something, like you're saying, impulse buying, but you feel like, well, it's on sale, so I'm going to save some money.
Yes.
Is that true at all?
No, what people should know, let's first for address, because God willing, we have another year coming next year, 2017. What people must always know, like my brother has said, you have got your financial obligations that comes every month. So whether April, whether December, whether August, like he said, any prudent person has already paid school fees for January for his children. Any prudent person who is actually renting a house has already paid rent. Any prudent person, as he says, has already budgeted for the money for the activities that are leisure in life, so that you do not get caught up in a milieu that, oh my God, time has come, I have no money. So one of the things that Kenyans do, this is what we call consumer behavior, is what we call consumerism. I teach that subject as well.
Okay.
it's a very funny topic, whereby we tell people, any person who is actually out there in business right now, you can see we have new arrivals. Go everywhere. We have what you call, they're called discounts being offered. But I'm telling you, there's no discount. What they do, because they know at this point in time, people don't even criticize. They don't even have time to interrogate the prices, because that festive mood, they go on the spending spree. And that spending spree will lead to what we call the January. NJAA, January. And that's why you find people now, landlords will have issues with their tenants. School, you'll see people going for emergencies to educate their children, which is very bad. Your child should never be in an emergency. As he said, pay school fees in advance. You'll see people again now coming when asking for fuel, for money, actually borrowing money to fuel their cars. And you wonder why. So as he says, you should only spend money during this festive season, which is surplus. Yes. Not which is actually money meant for key, fundamental responsibilities that you know are always there with you. And something else that have been minding people. If I take you to Mombasa in the month of January, white cards remain white cards. If I take you to white cards right now, the cost will be how much? Almost 3 times, because they know the demand. That's what we call the law of demand and supply. It comes into play. So one of the things that we must always ensure that we do, we must avoid what we call in the academic world paralysis of analysis. It's a situation whereby people fail now to engage their central nervous system with what we call reality on the ground, and you find people doing things outside what we call their normal lives, which makes them become enemies to even their bosses, because there's a lot of lethargy. People don't report to work early, come January. Why? Because they don't want eating money in advance. We must follow what we call the cardinal rule in financial management. Cardinal rule number 1 says, always spend less than you earn. But what do people do? They spend more than they earn.
Well, yeah, because people have a mentality that I've made it through the whole year, December, I need to reward myself.
Yes, thank you for bringing that.
I deserve this.
I fight with that mentality a lot. One thing I always ask anybody who thinks that way, please go back to January 2015. Then travel between January 2015 to now. How easy has it been for you to make that money? What toils have you gone through? How early have you woken up? What have you given up for you to get that money? Now here comes December and you go on a burst of spending. One thing you always have to remember is that no one ever gets rich by spending, because you have to remember that December is still within the life cycle of every year, still within your normal financial life cycle. So if you go burst in December, chances that you will need to spend January, February, March up to April before you can recover from the losses you've incurred in December are very high. So just look at how hard it was for you to make that shilling. Then ask yourself, is it worth burning it at this point in time? I like what he said. Do things off season. Right now we're doing a lot of travel. I come from a culture where if we don't go home for December, my mother has an issue.
Right? I think most of us do.
In fact, we are going up country. It just happens that. But I've always thought about it. What if you went up country in November? Because you're having a larger group of people going up country. I think one time my sister and my brother were stuck in Kinale for 8 hours because there was a traffic, and everyone left at the same time. What if we went home in October and November? Then we stayed in Nairobi and asked the people in the village to come to the city. Because how many guys are we transporting from the village vis-a-vis how many guys are going to the village? Okay. Then the other thing is that if you stay in Nairobi around December, first of all, when I was in employment, I loved working around December. Why? Because Nairobi is the best place to be. There's traffic,
parking.
You go to malls, you're literally being begged to walk in. But between now and 25th, you're going to actually have a lot of issues. So within that promotions that are working, yes, businesses have to make money. So businesses have to be savvy in terms of how they push out their product. We don't fail them for that. You pay the premium for if at all you didn't plan. Okay. I got a very interesting tip from a friend of mine who says from January to December, they shop in supermarkets and they always have their loyalty cards. So they will always get, whenever they would buy, in fact, he was saying every time he goes to shop and he doesn't swipe the points, he has an issue with his wife, right? Now, come December, they shop using the points
that you've accumulated.
You've accumulated over the time, because you'll find some supermarkets giving you some bonuses around in terms of 1 point equals, if it was a shilling, it's 2 shillings and 50 cents. So you get to not actually use the hard cash, because through the year you still had to buy the things you needed to buy. The only thing is now those reward points is what now you're using to cash in to lower your budget within the festive season. But again, to just jump on something, buy off season. I want to just use season. Buy off season. Go to on holiday off season. It makes more sense.
Well, let's talk to the person who is planning a trip up country, which many of us are. And you know, you can't go empty-handed. You can't just show up and say, "Here I am from Nairobi. How have you been? How's the year been?" There's a certain amount of spending that goes into that trip as well. So, what are the limits when it comes to up-country travel? I mean, you know, in addition to fuel and all the other regular costs, just in terms of buying gifts for all of your relatives.
Okay, let me first of all respond to that. And like my brother has said here, one of the things that you must know, you have to learn to reduce the risk. Personal financial management calls for what we call risk reduction. As he said, when everybody is traveling on our roads, remember, some people are actually under the influence of alcohol, because it is a season for merrymaking. Now, so in terms of judging how the roads will be, it becomes a very risky thing. So there's no point of you subjecting your family to what we call that risk, whereas you could have reversed the situation. So when it comes to budgeting, let me tell you something. You are not Father Christmas, you're not Mother Christmas. You make people happy just for a few hours, and they forget about whatever you did to them. Come January, you'll be left alone. So do things ordinarily. Don't do things out of the ordinary. If it means buying for my mother, I have already budgeted for how much I'll spend. When it comes to floods, yeah, we remain floods. With or without money, we remain floods, because I'm not going to overspend to make them happy. Now, why should I spend on him 50,000 shillings, whereas I have an obligation of 50,000 shillings come January? So why don't we remain? We've been floods anyway, after all, from January to December. But let me tell you, the best thing to be able to cushion yourself against what we call those unusual spending of money. Those who are employed, before you talk of the unemployed, talk to your boss. Talk to your employer or to your HR manager or the personal manager for that matter. Every month, let him be shacking off a certain amount of money. If it is 10,000 shillings every month, come December, they give you 20,000 shillings. That means you have money now to do your shopping come December. And as he said, the easiest way to do, let me ask you, if I was to buy a bale of unga in the month of September, it will maybe cost me 300 shillings. But come December, 500 shillings. Haven't I saved 200? It could not have gone bad within those 2 months. So if it is rice, buy rice. Are enough if you don't buy rice for your mother, because every coin counts. And as he told you, I was very, very impressed. Remember, it takes you time and energy to make that particular 1 shilling. So why do you want to throw it away? So one of the things that you should do is that know how much you're budgeting for that particular visitation, and know how much money you spend when it comes to that particular festive season. Do not go outside the budget, because the moment you go out of the budget, it means you're borrowing to sustain that particular life. And remember, even if you take a loan, for instance, right now, to be able to enjoy the holiday, you have to pay that loan. Do what you call the cost of finance. And remember, human minds have capacity to create problems equivalent to the amount of money available. If you have 100,000 shillings because it is in December, your thinking will be wired in such a way that you have to spend that 100,000 shillings to the last coin. So you have to be very careful.
We're just about to wind up here, so maybe Kiwaka can give us some final comments. Doctor has been saying a lot of, if you are a prudent
financial planner,
then this is how you should have behaved throughout the year. Many people watching are not that person. We're just trying to make it to the end of January when you get our next salary. So maybe just some tips during this festive period.
One, don't live life as an accident. Everything needs to be purposed. Christmas is not an accident. We all knew about it. If you're going to spend in Christmas, then start planning for it. I like what he's talked about, the employer taking over a shilling or two. Number 2 is be prudent in terms of where do you really need to spend. There are certain expenditures that are absolutely not necessary. Like where I always say, if you have to buy to please, there's a problem. I just need to please you by my presence. That's good enough. Even your children, look at how you buy the gifts, the toys. I think you talked about the toys. Kids have an interesting way. You can actually recycle toys if you're very smart about it. Now, about buying, there's a campaign going on, and I want to just jump on it, about buying the village. If we're going to shop in the village, go improve the economy within that place. The challenge we're having is that most of us are living in Nairobi with our boots full, right? So you have zero economic impact with your visit in your village. Go home, buy something from home. But most critically, have a plan. Know exactly how much you want to spend. Stay within that plan, and in fact, let me put it this way. Try and live within your means. Okay? Then after you've lived within your means, grow your means. Because whatever money you'll be able to save within the festive season, chances are that you'll have an opportunity to invest it in January. Okay, so that is the basics that I would look at. Don't look at spending as an avenue for you to feel good.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the seeds that we sow in December are what we'll be reaping in January,
Yes.
depending on how it is that you sow. But thank you so much for those tips. I think we've established that, you know, pay what needs to be paid right now, the school fees, the rent, get that out of the way. If you have surplus, then you're able to spend that later on. So thank you so much for those tips and for talking to us more about financial management, especially during this holiday period. We're not saying that you shouldn't have a Merry Christmas. You absolutely deserve that, but just be wise about your spending. We're going to have some more music right now from the Gospel Family. Keep it here on Power Breakfast.